Okay, hi everyone. We are gonna start our next panel. So please be seated. The panel is gonna be on plenary on youth and climate action strategies, ways, and best practices. The moderator is gonna be Steve Chu. Thank you. We're live. We're live. It's fun. Relax, Steve.
What's up, everyone? Hi, welcome, welcome. We're getting situated up here, but so happy that you can join us for this lovely plenary session on youth, climate action, and as we share strategies, best practices, and ways that we can really deeply engage as young people with the issue of the climate crisis. I think the past couple of days at AIYC, we've really been reflecting about like the power of young people, right? And we know that as we empower more youth to come into the ecosystem and take action, that like we can really drive and create change. But the really big question becomes like, how does this happen, right? Especially within the climate ecosystem, it's such a complex space. There's so many dynamics that are at play and so many different ways that young people can plug in, right? So I'm so excited that we have a lovely panel with us today to kind of reflect with us on the different ways that they've been entering the climate movement, the different ways they've been solving for the climate crisis, and share some of these best practices and strategies with you. So to my right, I have Sohila Rizk, who's an international student ambassador at UCLA. To her right, I have Jerome Wano, who's the co-founder of the Australian Indigenous Youth Caucus. And to his right, we have Molin, who's the founder of Hack for Earth Foundation. And so together, I hope this 45 minutes will be this beautiful reflection between us, and then also hold some time for you guys to ask our speakers for their expertise and reflect together. So I really want to start the conversation off first with Sohila, thinking about if you can share with us how you engage with the climate movement writ large, and what are some of the strategies that you use that really allow you as a young person to engage with the space and create impact and advocacy.
Hi everyone. My name is Sohila Rizk, and I'm a university student. So I'm still pretty young. Being a speaker at this year's International Youth Conference is obviously such a privilege for me to come be here and speak alongside such distinguished individuals like Jerome and Anne. So today I'm trying to approach you guys just like as a peer, as a friend, and just as a fellow advocate. I come from Egypt. I grew up there. I was raised there. I was born there. And I came to attend UCLA about 3 years ago. I came into college from the British system, and I had learned a lot about climate change. I understood what it was, but I was never taught what I could do about it. As a young person, I feel like my role in helping this earth, the earth that I would live in for years to come, I feel like I was erased from that equation. And I think it's really struck me as soon as I came to UCLA, and I saw a lot of recycling bins everywhere. And I was like, how do I recycle? I don't know how to recycle. I had never recycled before. I mean, it's just not the mentality in Egypt or generally in the Middle East. And I remember I was asking people, where do I throw? Like, what do I throw in which bin? And everyone was kind of looking at me weird. What are you doing? Like, how don't you know how to recycle? This is something we're taught like as children. And I asked people, and I wondered if this is something so basic that I didn't know. How much is there out there that I don't know? How much more can I do to help my future and to help my children and generations to come? And so I discovered ESG consulting. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the concept, but for those who aren't, ESG consulting is when you help businesses improve their ESG goals. So environmental, social, and governance factors, ways business can understand things like how well they're doing on their CSR, how well they're doing on their key performance indicators that have to do with the environment, how they treat their labor. I became really passionate about the work as soon as I joined GRC, a global research and consulting group at UCLA that is kind of specialized in ESG. And I worked on several projects for various companies, mostly centered around using tech to help our planet, something that Anne, I think, will touch on. I did a project with an AI waste recycling sorter, and we helped them monetize that. And I did a project with a data company one, which is an app that helps college students understand their recycling habits. And we used that to like market it to college students. And I became really passionate about helping businesses help us. I think we all know that the IPCC said we have until June 2030 to cut our carbon emissions by half if we want to keep climate change at 1.5 degrees Celsius. But I don't know how we can do that if 71% of our emissions come from just the top 100 companies. So I think companies are going to have to give somehow. We need to reach a compromise. And so, through working with these companies and through helping them reach their own ESG goals, um, I think we can start to enact real change. And I think it's also important to call on all the young entrepreneurs that are just now starting their own new businesses to implement ESG from the start. Implement ESG as a core business value, not just as an afterthought, not just as something that you will use to premium price your product or to greenwash. I think it is very, very important to keep our environment and our ecosystem at the forefront of all of our future endeavors.
That's beautiful, Sohila. I think lifting up this idea of like how you found a passion and interest, and then also identified this key gap in like private sector businesses, and then also seeing where the opportunity is really brought you to this like moment of like synergy in your own life. And I think one thing we can learn from like strategies for other how other youth can be in this ecosystem also is in your education piece, right? Building apps, finding ways that like wherever young people are showing up, that we bring the knowledge and education to them is a powerful tool and strategy to ensure that we can really create impact. Jerome, I'll pass it over to you. Same question. How are you engaging with the climate movement, and what are some of the strategies that allow for you to create that impact?
Hello, I'm Jerome Wano. I'm Waka Waka, 2 foot tall man, Indigenous to both Australia and New Zealand. Um, I'm the first person to go to university in my family, so I never really had anyone um, to teach me or to guide me through that process. I studied animal ecology, and within that, I too learnt about the impacts of climate change and uh, I guess the extent of it. We saw it occurring in our country through the fires and all those sorts of things, but within my communities, we don't actually understand the global extent of it because we don't have that education. We know it's occurring, we know it's real, and we know the impacts on a local level. Um, so, yeah, going to university actually opened my eyes to a global kind of perspective. And it was a blessing and a curse because it also made me realize the actual extent. And it's kind of overwhelming, to understand the level of destruction that's taking place across the globe. Um, and in Australia, we rank 69th out of the 74 countries committed to the SDGs. We're fifth globally in land clearing. We clear 500,000 acres, hectares annually, which is 1.5 million football fields. And so for us as Indigenous people, we understand that when the land is cleared, you're also destroying our language, you're destroying our lands, you're destroying us as human beings, our culture, everything that we are is within those lands, our stories, our sacred sites. So for us, it's a very different experience when we talk about climate change. It's a very personal, very deeply impactful kind of conversation that really we feel through the generations, and especially within colonialism. Um, so recently, I've kind of stepped into the geopolitical scene as a result of the past referendum in Australia, where my nation denied my people a voice in our country. And it was really difficult throughout that period. sorry, because we were denied a voice in policy making. In Australia, within the constitution, there's a race-based law, and that allows the government of the day to make laws against a specific race of people. And in the history of that constitution, they've only ever used it against one group of people, and that's my people. So the voice was important for us to actually be at the table when those policies were made, when those laws were made. And obviously that was denied. So now we're working towards reclamation. And we've entered geopolitical spaces to actually make change, to be able to sit at the table, but also reform, restructure these systems to make sure that they actually uphold Indigenous epistemologies and ontologies so that the mindset actually changes. And so we've created the AIYC, the Australian Indigenous Youth Caucus, in response to being at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues last year. There was only 3 Indigenous youth from Australia. And so we're still new. We don't really know what we're doing. We don't even have a website. We've only just sent people to the UNPFII this year again. We're in the process of being incorporated, but the idea is for self-education, for us to actually go out into the world and put pressure on Australia from a geopolitical space. And yeah, that's the goal.
Thanks for sharing your story, Jerome. I think we can really feel the hurt that comes from the destruction of your land, your culture, and your people, and the silencing that comes from also being excluded from these processes. And so I think definitely one of the strategies that like you remind me of is how we must work from the ground up, but when that fails, we come to the international and we put pressure on the top down as well. And it's beautiful that like in engaging with the permanent forum, you've found value in coalition building as well. Right. And I think that's definitely a direction that we encourage youth to work in as well, in that recognizing that our voices are stronger together. It's about coming together in this collective and educating each other and sharing these beautiful stories that need to be told time and time again to ensure that we don't replicate history once more. I'll pass it over to Anne now to continue this conversation, thinking about, like, from your perspective, how you're engaging with the climate movement and some of the strategies that you're using to kind of amplify youth impact in advocacy.
Now, can everybody hear me? Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on this panel with these distinguished guests. And before I talk about what I do, I just want to say that these days here, both here with you in this panel, but the people I've met and interacted with here, I'm just so in awe of all the courage you have and with the great efforts you are doing in your respective countries in face of such adversity. It's truly inspiring, and it really makes me want to do even more. So I'm Molin, and I'm the founder and secretary general of the Hack for Earth Foundation. And I also wanted to start with a little bit of the why, talking a lot about the why, and that's so important. And my why comes from that I believe that all citizens on this planet have to contribute to create the solutions that we need for our future. Right now, there's a lot of pressure, of course, on prime ministers and CEOs and leaders all over the world, and they meet at this big COP events and other events like Summit of the Future and Climate Weeks and so forth. And of course, they need to do a lot more than they're doing. But what about the rest of us? All of the citizens all over the world, if you have a great idea and your perspective, how do we harness that and make those perspectives and those ideas come to life? So that is what Hack for Earth is all about, bringing a platform and a space for all of you citizens out there who want to make change and make your voices heard. So I used to work for, I come from Sweden, a very small and in this context, I'm more and more realizing a very privileged country. I'm not being harassed in any way, and I have the opportunity to do my work and freely, which is of course very privileged. And so I used to work for the Swedish government with something called the Hack for Sweden, and that was a yearly hackathon. Does everybody know what a hackathon is? Okay, I'll briefly explain it. A hackathon is a competition in innovation. So you work in teams on a specific challenge to create a solution. And at the end of the hackathon, that is usually like 24 to 72 hours, you turn in your solution and then a jury decides who wins. And then the hackathon ends. So I used to work with this. And as I can hear, this is a great tool. The first time I encountered it, I was like, I just fell in love with the idea and the atmosphere of an in-person hackathon. So many ideas coming together and different people creating new solutions. But there was one problem with the entire hackathon scene that I was in Sweden. First of all, when I walked into my first hackathon, 220 hackers present. Wonderful to see all of them there, but one problem. They were all white, they were all male, and they were all wearing hoodies. And of course, it's great that this really techie community showed up, but we need diversity if we want to create really innovative solutions for the future. And this is not just because it's a good thing or the right thing to do. That science proves that you need diversity in teams if you want solutions to have a high level of innovation. So I set out to invite different kinds of people to our hackathons with a greater diversity, like different backgrounds. We needed different competences and genders, of course, and ages as well. And the other dilemma that I saw was that after the hackathon, after we announced the winners and the confetti has landed on the floor and you present them with the prize, what happens then? Nothing. So I tried to convince the Swedish government to give me resources to create an acceleration program, something to make these solutions, take them further. I didn't succeed in this. And at some point in life, you have to decide, okay, then I'll just leave it and I'll continue doing hackathons and take none of the solutions further. But that was not an option for me. I felt I have to do this. I really love the hackathon tool, and I think it could be so powerful in taking it international and actually bringing the solutions to life. So that's why I quit my job with the Swedish government after being employed there for 20 years. This was back in 2021, and started the Hack for Earth Foundation. So the mission of the Hack for Earth Foundation is to invite people to create solutions, but also to connect people around the world to create these solutions and bring the solutions to life. So that's the first time we created the Build for Earth Acceleration Program. So now, I can proudly say that in our hackathons, several of the solutions that have come out of them are on the market today, bringing value to people and planet. Not all of them, of course, because as you know, ideas, it's difficult. You talked about entrepreneurship before, and it's a difficult business. Not everything is going to survive, but several of them are on the market. So and it's students mostly around the world who are in these teams who have created the solutions. So that's something that really makes me proud. And just one more thing before we talked yesterday. There was a lot of talk about the right to the seat at the table. And I just I thought a lot about this last night, and after this discussion you had here, And there was this dialogue here about maybe we don't have the right to the table, and how do you take this seat? And I think you participate with your unique perspective, experience, and knowledge, and that is enough. I'm not a youth anymore, since I've been in the workforce for over 30 years. But of course, I have been questioned as well, especially as a psychologist, which is my profession, going into the tech world. And a lot of people have questioned me, where is your right to run hackathons? And as a project manager, this is not your place. You should go back to what you should do. And really, I think my curiosity has guided me, and I trust in that. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So always, I think, trust that your perspective and your knowledge and the experience that you bring to the table, that is enough. You don't need to know everything in order to have a point and have a seat at the table. Your perspective is enough. I just wanted to say that because I really feel that is important.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Anne. I love that you started with the why, right? Because I asked you the how, but you're like, let's go to the why first. And I think it's so compelling because it kind of is the foundation of why, and like why is how we engage, right? And from there, speaking to how platforming is a key part of the strategy, opening the table, making the table more expansive, and creating these opportunities for youth to kind of enter the ecosystem and bring their ideas to life. I think there's an undercurrent of narrative that you're speaking to, which is also mentorship, and like the guidance of like, how do you get these ideas to market? And I'm so grateful that you spoke to this sustainability of solutions, being that like we can't just hack in new ideas, but we need to link them with markets that can actually propel it forward to ensure that that business is sustained. And so maybe continuing back with you then to carry us forward to our second question, I'd love for us to reflect a little bit on like, what are some of these best practices that our organizations use to strengthen our youth engagement with the climate movement, right? Like you're running this hackathon, recognizing that like there are young people that are coming in, but how do we attract young people into the space, right? There's so many options of like so much great stuff to do, but like how do we ensure that youth know about these opportunities and that they're really incentivized and encouraged to be in these ecosystems, so that as we're designing our own initiatives too, we have these strategies of how to bring more young people in.
Thank you for that question. And that is a great question. How do we engage people and encourage them to join our hackathons or any kind of events that we're organizing? And I find that that is the number one thing that most of our big partner organizations that I work with fail to understand. They think that people will fall over and signing up for the hackathon. And really, it's not like that, because you are asking people to take of their time and give their time to your event. And that is a big thing, because time is limited for all of us. And there's so much competing with so many other things competing for people's time. So that's why in Hack for Earth, we really strive to make the hackathon experience really valuable and fun at the same time. Because when I started out making hackathons, I really wanted it to become fun and engaging and learning experience and serious at the same time. Because if it has to be that. If it's not, you're not going to get people with you, and it's not going to be the event that you want to. And so that's we put a lot of effort into workshops and that are engaging, and the feel and the setup of the entire hackathon, and really, of course, it's important with having the right structure and then communicating in a very a good way. But really, I think you have to have that in mind. you are competing and asking people to give of their time. So that's why it has to also be purposeful, and that's why we have the acceleration program for the winners. And so it's an opportunity to take your idea and actually make it come to life if you win. So yeah, very good question.
No, I love that, Anne. And I think in thinking about like what it means to have these purposeful investments, people aren't just coming to like be a part of the spectacle, right? They're investing their time, their energy, and their heart into something, and having it be centered around fun and joy. I think is such a lovely way to frame and bring people into the struggle, right? We often say like, are you inviting people to the struggle, or are you inviting them into the party, right? And framing things in a way where people feel like they're part of this celebration and they're part of this like space of curiosity where they're learning together, I think is a beautiful strategy to attract more young people into the mix. And so maybe I'll pass it to Jerome to reflect with us as well, like with your coalition and your caucus, how are you looking to bring more youth into that fight and into this ecosystem, and share with us how some of these strategies you're using can invite more young people into the movement?
Um, I kind of want to tell a story. Is this on? Um, about how we're functioning, and how we're working with youth once they're actually at these events, and what we want to teach them, um, in terms of understanding this ecosystem. Um, I'm currently doing my postgrad degree at the University of Sunshine Coast in Australia. But when I was doing my undergrad, I was in my second year and I started failing. I failed the whole second year. There was a lot of drug and alcohol abuse, mental health issues, deep mental health issues that I was facing. Um, and eventually it came to a point where I actually wanted to take my life. So I left and I thought I can't stay here. So I went back to my country, back to my homelands in Alice Springs, which is in the desert, the central of Australia. Um, and it was there that I realized that I hadn't been around language. I hadn't been around my culture. I was in this very colonial white space where in science, my science isn't actually valued. It's dismissed. Um, and so I felt I was being subsumed into this colonial system. I felt that I was being assimilated, and my spirit was actually rejecting it, which is why I was failing, which is why I was doing the things that I was doing. Um, and when I went back home, I had two of my nunkeries, which are healers. Um, they looked over my spirit and they said that my spirit was hiding under my sternum. So they brought it back out. They healed me. Um, and one of the elders sat me down and he said that I was to be a conduit. I have to be a conduit between this world, the colonial world, and my world. And so I have to understand it as something that is separate to me. Um, I can't allow it into my mind. I can't allow it to change me because I will lose everything that I am. The essence of my being is Indigenous. It's Waka Waka Tūwharetoa. That is who I am. I can't allow this system to subsume me, or else it'll destroy me. And so for the Australian Indigenous Youth Caucus that we've created, one of the things that I try and get across the most and almost drum it in the people's heads is that this is an ecosystem that is separate to you. You cannot allow it to subsume you. You have to walk into those spaces and be Indigenous. You cannot allow those spaces to colonize your mind and your spirit and your being. Because, like the man said this morning, you will become a part of that system and you will be the problem. And so, for us, we have to be grounded in our Indigenous identity. Um, and so, for me, that's one thing that I try and push in best practice is allowing them to know that we will guide you through this because we don't have leaders, Indigenous leaders from our communities in these sorts of spaces. So we are now becoming those leaders. But we do have great leaders back home within our communities, in our culture. So we have that foundation already. So to make sure that we stay within that and we come into the space as a conduit and we act as conduits between the two worlds.
I love that, Jerome. And thank you for constantly bringing this energy of storytelling to this panel as well. I think There's a power to your story and your struggle and your suffering that allows us to connect to the broader vision that you're painting with us. I love that you're lifting up culture as a key way in which young people are being drawn into the movement, and then also recognizing that like we are separate from this colonial system, and that it's a space that we need to enter to struggle in and to change and transform, but we cannot let it subsume us. I think that's such a valuable piece of wisdom that like I think it propels your work forward. And so similarly thinking about for our organizations, what are those founding values and how loudly do we speak them into being so that other youth who are looking for places of resonance can really feel heard in that way. I'll now pass it over to Sohila to continue that same reflection of how your organization is using strategies to strengthen youth engagement and allowing for young people to enter the climate movement space.
I guess I just want to start off by saying that the entire idea of sustainability and a kind of really understanding what's going on and how our actions are affecting our world is relatively new, right? And it's ever changing, and we're discovering new things every day. We're discovering new solutions every day. And no one understands change at this pace as much as us youth do, right? Like growing up, who would have thought that AI would come about just within the past like 5 years? The rate of change is really high. And I guess, yeah, like I said, we are positioned to understand that because we have experienced it and we're seeing it with our own two eyes. And I guess my organization, my consulting club, really tries to put us in the workforce. So we do a lot of like hands-on work. We work with a lot of sustainability companies, and I guess we understand that we will not be given a seat at the table if it was up to them. And so we kind of have to earn a seat at the table. We have to demand a seat at the table as young people. We have to, in a way, impose ourselves and learn how to effectively communicate. I'm actually taking a class about this, environmental communication, right now. Um, and it's very interesting because when you're talking to people who are risking their money and risking their businesses, and you're asking them, hey, like you need to change this so that our world can be better, it is very difficult to get them to see the side or your perspective or where you're coming from. The forward lookingness of your ideas, they don't tend to understand because they have different stakes than you do, right? And so effectively communicating and compromising and getting those hands-on hours with clients and with businesses and getting them to understand and slowly change their mindsets. Even though the rate of change of the world is so fast, I feel like a lot of people have really slow changing mindsets, and the general population actually does. And one more thing that we really need to leverage is technology. I mean, technology allows us to dream bigger and achieve more. And it's not just about efficiency, it's actually, it can be used to create solutions that benefit our planet and our people. There's now big data, AI, blockchain, and these aren't just buzzwords, they're actually tools for change. They're things that we have at our disposal today that we didn't have maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I saw this and it was pretty interesting. AI-driven climate solutions could potentially cut GHG emissions by 4% by 2030, which might seem insignificant. 4% seems like a low number, right? But change is slow and any change is good change. And one more thing I would like to say is that it's really easy to talk and it's really easy to say, hey, I'm going to do this, I want to do that, I want to make change. But we need to actually act on it. And so I think the one thing that our club or our like business-ish gets people to do is it gets people to act early on. And it gets you used to communicating with clients. It gets you used to understanding how to rationalize, I guess, your solutions to these big businesses that are a really large part of the issue today. And I guess that would be my advice.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Sohila. I love this like commitment to action, right? Like I think young people are very much not into just listening to people talk. Like if we're here to talk, it's because we're here to learn, dialogue, expand our wisdom, and then take that wisdom and put it into action, right? So framing and positioning your club as a space to take action and have that capacity be built on how to navigate the complexities of the climate ecosystem, and then also be able to implement through that like sort of like accompaniment, I think is a powerful strategy and tool to really attract young people into the ecosystem. And then also like showing people how to take that seat at the table, right? I think it's really powerful. So we have about 10 minutes left. I have more questions that I can ask and yap for days, but I want to make sure we hold space for all of you who are here in the room and then also online. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, we have about 10 minutes to kind of chat with our panelists. So I'll just look for a show of hands. And then
I can give the mic.
please.
Hi, thank you so much. Like, it was so amazing to hear you speak about it. And I'm actually a high school student right now, so I'm a junior in high school, and I'm excited to be here today among these amazing people. I founded a coalition called Youth for Earth, which has 34 nonprofits following and empowering youth to speak out, fostering global citizenship through environmental literacy. I feel like as a high school student, I've always been acknowledged, but my contributions and ideas as a group are never really put in action. How can today's youth transition from being perceived as the future leaders to actively leading and making a difference in our communities right now?
Beautiful. Thank you for the question. We'll maybe take 2 to 3 at the same time, and then have one here and then one over here.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm from Mexico, and I have a question about how climate refugees. About climate refugees, because it's like a new term, and it's also a new thing that nobody talks about it. So every day, more people are forced to leave their countries due to the consequences of this, of the climate change. And my question is about the legislation, because I would like to know how the legal issue of these people is being handled, and how a better approach can be made with government that still do not recognize all these terms of the climate refugees, and how youth can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we had a third question over here, and then we'll come back to the panel for a first round of reflections, and then we'll go back for more questions. Yes? Cool.
So I have a question to you, Anne. I really like that you shared some sort of your experience, and especially that challenges you met during your recognition, getting your recognition. And then you said that a lot of people were talking like, stop doing what you're doing, return the things what you did before. But for me, it's more interesting. I'm interested in to know, and I would be happy if you can share how you build your personal dialogue when you were dealing with this public pressure. Because based on my experience, actually is quite difficult to get professional recognition for females, young specialists in the field where they historically dominated by men. And then being around by men. So I would love to hear your experience. Thank you.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please. We'll go to the panel.
Yes, thank you for that question. And in my experience, okay, this is a bit controversial, I guess, but my success came when I started thinking like a man. And when I say thinking like a man and acting like a man, it's like men get jobs on potential. and are more inclined to apply for jobs or positions and situations where they might not have all the credentials. But as a woman, more women are inclined to, okay, I have to have all the credentials on the list and I can't apply for this job. Of course you can. I can do this. No, I might not have all the things, but what I don't know, I can learn. When I started thinking like that, that's what I know now can have, and my experience and my competence within my field is enough to bring a lot of value into other areas, and to give value and to be taken care of in different areas is enough. And one more thing, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but in Sweden, a lot of people, we take a lot of time thinking about what to evolve about ourselves and looking at our bad sides. I'm bad at this and I can't do this and I have to get better at this. Don't do that. With that, focus on what you're good at and really try to get better at what you find that this works for me. This is something that I'm like, for me, I'm very good at knowing who should work together. I'm good at people and connecting with people. I'm really bad at a lot of other stuff, but then I don't focus on that if it doesn't bring me problem. If people tell me like this is an issue, you have to address this, that's another story. But if it's not giving you trouble, don't focus on that. Focus on what you're good at and believe in yourself, and that what you have to bring to the table is enough, and you don't have to know all the answers. And there will probably be somebody else who has the answers that you're looking for.
I guess I could answer your question over there. I cannot tell you how many times we have been like dismissed by clients just for being college students or for working pro bono. A lot of times we've had rude clients who will sign up for a project just to say that they worked with us because we're an ESG consulting club and it's cute and fun and it looks good for the company, right? And then the actual project rolls around and then we get ghosted and they just like completely remove themselves from the equation. A lot of times we'll be giving our final presentation and the client is having a different conversation with some of their like coworkers. And honestly, the one advice that I would give you is just be persistent, because I think persistence is key, and be an effective communicator and communicate like you are an adult, because you are, right? Like you deserve to be there. Just because of your age, just because of your gender, just because of your race, no one should ever tell you that you do not deserve a spot at the table, because everyone deserves a spot at the table. This is our table, right? This is our earth. This is something that we should all work together collectively. It is our duty as youth to impose ourselves and position ourselves in a way to earn their respect, right? Because no one is going to give you free respect, unfortunately.
I don't know too much about the policies and all the legal sort of side of things. But what I do know is that in the Pacific, the islands are sinking and people have been moving, seeking refuge. And so a lot of people are coming to Australia or New Zealand. But I have a friend in Fiji who's working with a few different Indigenous groups in the south of Australia, in actually holding the government of Australia accountable in climate change and actually creating jobs for those seeking refuge because of climate. So yeah, I think the onus is on us in developed countries who are creating the climate problem to actually help and to put pressure on our governments rather than leave it up to those that are seeking refuge to then come and put pressure on our governments. I think we need to work as a collective in developed nations to actually put pressure on those governments. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you to our panelists for reflections and final comments on your side.
I just wanted to say that regarding your question there, there's a lot of talking going on right now in the big, like the COP events, and there's so much talking and not enough action, and exactly around those kind of issues that you are bringing to the table, that you mentioned. And that is exactly why we need people like you and people in this room to come and take a seat at the table to bring this up, because there are, of course, many reasons why there's not enough action going on. And yes, as a final comment, can we show the slide? Yeah, I just wanted to finish off and with mentioning that Hack for Earth, we have engaged so far 25,000 young people globally from 125 countries. And I would like to invite you all to join our next global hackathon at the COP29, the high-level climate conference the UN is holding in Baku, Azerbaijan, later this fall. And you participate online. And of course, your competence and your perspective is enough to join. And if you don't have a team, you can apply anyway, and we will provide and create a team for you with people from other parts of the world that you can work together with. So it's all on our website, hackforearth.com. If you go to hackforearth.com, you can read more about that, how to apply for the hackathon, and also connect with me if you'd like. I would like to connect with all of you. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and so looking forward to seeing you at our next hackathon. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So I know we said round 2 of questions, but in the interest of time, we're going to wrap the panel. Please come up, meet the panelists, have some more conversation. We're so grateful for all of our panelists for their insights, work, and reflections. Please join me in one big round of applause for our whole panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Very, very. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we take a picture?
Yes, of course, please.
Yeah, because the next are we?
Okay, everyone. Thank you, Stephen. Wonderful panelists for a wonderful panel. We're going to take a 5-minute break, but we're going to have 2 sessions at the same time. One is going to be here in the same room, and the one is going to be on the other side of the room. So please take a 5-minute break and be back soon.
Want me to take a picture? Oh, could somebody help us? Yeah, please, if you could. Maybe when we're sitting down with I think it's important that we see this background. Could we take a picture with like it looks like we're talking? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Mental Health Matters Strategies for Youth Well-Being is going to be happening in the room next door right now, actually. So I'll move over there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Your presentation, I like that. You're welcome.
Very interesting to go to Baku. Maybe we're gonna together. We can do it. I'm from Kazakhstan, but I'm working here. Yeah, and maybe I can make a
Ruby?
Okay. Yeah, we can. Okay.
And because we are collaborating with both the UN and the Swedish Plenary.
Okay.
So,